This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey Darklings, Kaylin here. We know our generation has a surplus of pretty darkness in common, and if there's one thing unpacking our upbringing has taught us, it's just how essential therapy is for shining a flashlight on the darkness in our own lives. I don't know where I'd be without mine. I believe every human can benefit from the perspective of a licensed therapist. Whether you're familiar with your own inner workings or you're just looking for a listening ear, you can give BetterHelp online therapy a try by going to betterhelp.com/prettydark and receive 10% off your first month. I get that online therapy can be tricky, but I've been seeing my therapist online since 2020, and I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely worth it. Getting started is always the hardest part, and BetterHelp makes that easy. You can begin right from your phone or computer in whatever way makes you most comfortable, via good old-fashioned phone calls, video chats, or even messaging, if that's more your style. We enjoy this frightful nostalgia and learning about how it all connects, but Darklings know we're also passionate about healing and growing from what we learn. If you dare to do the same, head to betterhelp.com/prettydark. There you can answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who has years of experience helping people like us. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time, so you're sure to find the right connection. Millennials are ditching the stigma and owning our mental health. And with BetterHelp, you can build a relationship with a professional all from the comfort of your own home, just how we like it. Visit betterhelp.com/prettydark or choose That's Pretty Dark podcast during sign up and enjoy 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/prettydark.
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
The podcast where we talk about all the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark.
Listen, when I tell you that this guy is a poop monster, it's like the amount of diapers that he can fill.
And by this guy, you mean yourself?
DJ MacHale. Oh, yeah, that was good. That was good, myself. This guy. Yeah, I do talk about myself in the third person a lot of the time.
Often.
Yes.
Obviously not Christian.
No. Talking about my son.
Ugh.
His name is Rory. Rory Atticus.
What a little dude.
He's a little dude. He's for real. He's like the real.
The pictures are adorable, y'all.
He's the real deal.
He's a very cute kid.
Yeah, I don't post much on my social media, so I need to get better at that. But if you're going to, having a kid is a pretty good excuse, I think, you know. At least we didn't do like, was it pregnancy photos? Is that what they're called? Maternity photos. That's the word. Maternity. At least we didn't do like maternity photo shoots or anything like that. So
don't yuck the yum.
Sorry, not to judge.
That's what I'm saying. Don't yuck the yum. I think.
No.
You're documenting...
If you get off on maternity photos.
That fell all the way apart.
Well, what's new on our show? That's Pretty Dark. My name is Christian.
My name is Kaylin.
And routinely, I make things fall apart.
I really feel like you shouldn't listen to anything he says from this point forward, except that you have to, because this is the second part of our interview with Mr. DJ MacHale.
Now, we've already gotten half of it in there. You got to get the other half in before it's too late. Before
it's too late.
The well runs dry. Like, I don't know what the metaphor is here, but I'm working on it. See,
I'm afraid. That's all I know. I'm not afraid of the dark, but I'm afraid of you right now.
Are you afraid of riding the Tower of Terror, the actual elevator in the movie?
At this point, no. Bring it on.
Wow, bring it on. Okay, wow. Oh, Bring It On. That's 2 movies with Kirsten Dunst.
Ooh. Good call.
I'm up on my stuff today, guys.
God,
I just can't. Wow, sleep deprivation does wonders for.
It is not the first time you've approached this microphone sleep deprived.
But you know who was awake and alert and ready? DJ.
That's right.
He did great.
He did.
So great that we have a whole other episode.
We were just so lucky. We talked through way more, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark specifics. We talked through Tower of Terror. There's so much good stuff in here.
So once again, we're going to get out of the way. Let's go finish hanging out with DJ.
We, again, could talk all day long, but before, we do have to wrap it up, I want to make sure that we get in some conversation about one of our favorite films from our childhood and beyond, Tower of Terror. We did an episode on it. It's
our third
incredible.
episode, right?
It lives. Yeah, it was super early. This was 4 years ago.
The first thing
and
we did.
in that episode, as we said at the beginning, we were referencing you as a patron saint over and over because I wanted to know everything about how you made this movie because we I think share a mutual love of the Florida Tower of Terror. It's not even there in California anymore, but that Florida attraction meant so much to me. I rode it 13 times on my 13th birthday.
Oh my God.
It was big in my life. I was in a Disney cast member later, so I have a big connection to Disney as well.
What did you do?
I worked in Tomorrowland. I worked at Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger Spin, the Carousel of Progress, which I love. It's the only attraction at Florida Disney World that Walt Disney ever saw, experienced, and the Monsters, Inc. laugh floor. Yeah. So that was an incredible experience. But Disney attractions are big in my world and in my head. So hearing about all that you got to do for that was amazing. And we know that we read that they tapped you for that because of your work with Are You Afraid of the Dark, because of the spooky slant to that. So what was that like for you, given your affinity for the Twilight Zone and that being one of your biggest inspirations for Are You Afraid of the Dark? Did that feel full circle for you?
It felt full circle for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. Not the Twilight Zone one.
Okay.
Ironically. And that's because, and I was actually grateful for this, is that they said, they being Disney, said, you can't reference the Twilight Zone in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really? I said, yeah, because Twilight Zone, this is what they told me. Twilight Zone was co-owned, I guess, by the Rod Serling estate and CBS. And this was made for ABC Wonderful World of Disney. So I say we did not license Twilight. We licensed it at the park for the attraction.
For the attraction, yeah.
And it was a relief for me, frankly, because to add the whole layer of Twilight Zone with and Rod Serling, it's like, I don't want to have
layer.
So
that would have been impossible, yeah.
It's just something you could hold in your heart, but you didn't have to put it on screen.
Correct. And in making the movie, it was never referenced, so I never felt like it was a Twilight Zone thing. It's like, oh, right, it's the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. So I was really kind of removed from that quite a bit. The reason I got to do it was because a number of Nickelodeon executives were poached and went over to Disney, and they were then poaching Nickelodeon talent. So I don't know who came up with the idea of doing a movie based on Tower of Terror, but the Nickelodeon people said, we got the guy. We know exactly.
They had the guy. They were correct.
So they brought me in and like, you want to make this movie? I'm like, hey, sure. So that was great. So that's
incredible.
And the weird thing too is that I don't think it's ever happened before or since, but Disney is pretty much, they have their thumb on everything. They're really controlling company, and they've always been that way. And that started with Walt.
Always.
Yeah.
Tower of Terror, I pretty much had carte blanche. They're like,
wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's wild.
You had proven yourself. You had put it on screen numerous times. They knew you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
We've covered, Watcher in the Woods and everything too, and we're like, Disney didn't know how to do kids horror. They just didn't know how to do really dark, scary stuff.
They had to kind of put that in somebody else's hands, and they knew they had the expert.
If it didn't live in a fairy tale already, they didn't know how to do it. So it's almost like they didn't want to touch it because they were like, if we touch this, we're just going to ruin it. So we got to get somebody who can just do it and knows what they're doing. So maybe that's why. I mean,
that was the thinking.
They really botched a lot of the darker stuff they tried to do in the 70s and 80s.
Well, Disney was kind of they're kind of victims of their own success.
Yeah,
this is different now because it's so varied. I mean, they're Marvel now and they're Fox and all that kind of stuff. But the legacy of Walt and everything that he built was for young kids.
You're in a box by nature of legacy.
Their own success has forced them. So think about how they moved into teen stuff. It was like Beach Blanket and Net Funicello and it's really things. There's nothing real about this. So they're like, how do we do this? And I guess maybe Tower of Terror is again.
I was gonna say, was that kind of the directive? Was it more of a let's age it up just a little? I mean, you got to direct Kirsten Dunst, who is my favorite actress of all time, which I want to ask about that too. There are so many things I want to know, but
so many things.
Was that kind of the vibe that you got?
Well, it was really fun for me because it was the only thing I've ever shot in Los Angeles. I'm always going someplace to shoot something, and this was a Los Angeles-based show. We shot the movie. We shot 99% of it in Los Angeles, and just the audition process they're traipsing in people that it's like, oh my God, I knew every one of them.
Right. That's different than casting in Montreal, I'm sure.
Yeah,
You knew them,
absolutely.
but for different reasons, because you'd seen them before.
Yeah. Well, Canada, it's weird. Canada has a whole kind of their own star system. So, because there's a whole industry up there that
They all voice characters in Arthur.
they're all,
They were all in Arthur.
well, it's the same company that,
Yeah.
that Are You Afraid of the Dark with me. Kiki was in Arthur. So the casting director would say, "Ooh, we're getting so and so to come in today." Like, ooh, like it was royalty. I'm like, they were in that Mountie movie. I never heard of these people. So I was kind of irreverent about it. But I will say that there was one person who I wanted to cast in Tower of Terror that they didn't let me cast. The reason they didn't let me cast her is because they thought she was too young for the part. It was the role of Abigail Gregory, who was the grown-up Sally Shine's sister. Now, who we cast was a wonderful Amzie Strickland, who's actually passed away, who was terrific. She was wonderful. No regrets whatsoever, except this one woman came in. I grew up with this woman. And she was awesome. She just nailed the part in the audition. It's like, oh my God, how great would it be to have her.
Yeah, another full circle moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we got to get her. Oh, come on. And she's also, now, Amzie, as wonderful as Amzie was, and Amzie's the only actor I ever worked with whose resume was alphabetical, not chronological, because she's been so many things.
So too many, yeah.
It was just, she gave me a signed picture of her when she was on the Andy Griffith Show. You know, it's like she's everything. But a character actor that you wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
This woman you would know. At least I would know. You may not know who she is. It's an actress by the name of June Lockhart.
Okay.
June Lockhart played Timmy's mom in Lassie.
Oh, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Timmy in the Well? She played Timmy's mom. And she was Maureen Robinson in Lost in Space.
Wow.
Oh, no way.
So two iconic shows that I grew up with. It's
Yeah.
like, I can tour
You
with
had-
June Lockhart? Oh my God, this is awesome. No, because they felt she was too young. And it's like, yeah, how often does an older actress get that?
Yeah, right. I was like,
Yeah,
well,
so
at
you
least she
did
wasn't
her
too
a
old.
service. That was a great, moment for her too in her career.
I get,
Wow.
but still, it was a great cast. We didn't, the two actors that we didn't necessarily cast, because a lot of big time actors don't audition, they just meet.
Yeah.
And that was Steve and Kirsten. And Kirsten turned 16 on the movie.
Nice.
And she was a big, oh boy, here's a girl whose parents did her right. She was a big fan of the Mod Squad.
Nice.
Mod Squad was a 60s TV show that was really solid. It was like, that's what the one guy was solid. She used to wear hippie stuff. So for her 16th birthday, I got her all this hippie stuff. It's like she was
That's so fun.
Yeah.
a joy. And
That's so
Steve was
fun.
Steve. I mean, he's like he's the goot. I mean,
Yeah, you can't do better. I mean, yeah, that movie just lives so. I could ask a million more questions, and we talked about it in our episode, the moment with the Steadicam cam at the end. And I told you before we started recording, I think about that moment after I heard an interview or I read it.
Right.
I think about that moment like every other week, because that is what it's about to me. When you have all of that energy and everybody just kind of gels, and you didn't cut the take when you were supposed to. You just kept rolling.
I was in absolute panic mode because the way that sequence was going to work, it was a 4-minute opening sequence, and so much of the energy came from these dancers, big swing party on the top club, whatever.
You had to get it.
I only had the morning to shoot this thing. It wasn't like a show that you could say, well, we'll come back this afternoon and we're on doing something else. We'll come back tomorrow. No, we were gone. And I'm sweating. It's like, this is not going to, I got the band, I got the
It's huge. I mean, we've done indie little productions, and even that, I directed an indie production that we did, and it's just everybody's looking at you like, okay, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
It's so much.
Yeah,
I cannot even fathom the headspace.
I was dying, and because I had like an hour left, and I got none of the dancers. And it's fun, if you ever do go back to it, you can count the number of shots. For anyone who's listening to this, know, I'll say really briefly. I'd set up a shot where all the plates were spinning, where in the foreground there were people partying, sitting at tables, toasting and whatnot. In the mid background, there were all the dancers doing all the dancing. And then the deep background was the band pretending to sync with the music. And we played the actual music that was in the movie. We actually had the cut already. It was on the Steadicam, thank God. And the shot was just started on one table, and it moved to the next table, and there was two girls there, and somebody says, let's dance, and they go out and they dance on the floor. That was the shot. And I don't know if it was like the third take, but you've directed something. You know, one of the toughest things to do as a director is say, okay, we got it. Let's move on.
Oh, it's hard. Because you're just like, what if we didn't, you know?
What if we didn't? Yeah, anything could happen.
One more for safety.
One more for safety.
Yeah,
that was our motto.
There could be a hair in the gate. We got to do it again. Fortunately, we didn't have the budget to broadcast from the Steadicam to Video Village.
Yeah.
So I was literally standing behind the camera operator looking at a little green monitor of what was being shot. And we did the tag. The girl said, come on, let's dance. And I was half a second away from saying, hey, cut, let's move on. And it was like the film gods shone down on me. The sky opened up, and I put my hand around the belt of the camera operator and said, all right, let's go. And I pushed him onto the floor.
Thank goodness you had to be there with him. You wouldn't have gotten that moment.
Right.
Like,
No, when I was behind him going, shoot that, now move over there. And the dancers and a couple of the other crew and the sound guy didn't cut the sound. Everyone stayed in character and kept playing. The dancers, most importantly, kept on dancing because we hadn't practiced. We hadn't rehearsed any of this.
Yeah.
They were just freestyling, dancing.
it blows me away.
Oh, so cool. And a couple of the other producers were jumped in behind me, and they're funneling the dancers around so they'd be in front of the camera all the time. And they're moving, and they're like, they dance like that. And I'd be in the operator's like, move there. Now pan to there. Now pan. Now look over there. Now pan over there.
And you just got everything you needed, really,
Everything.
in that take.
In that one take. So I think they were like,
It's my heart's in like my throat as I'm hearing about it. Like,
the moment that sticks most with me about the whole thing is when I said, cut. And the only reason I said cut was because the magazine ran out.
otherwise you could
It's
still be there
silence in
shooting
the
that
shot.
scene right now.
We'll be there today. And I looked up, and everyone was sweating. They were all looking at me with this smile on the face because they knew. They were like, that worked, didn't it? I'm like,
Yeah.
we got it. It was my most shining moment of being a director ever. I always look back on that.
I love it. Sometimes it just works.
You go back to the show. You can count the shots. I think
I
there's
will.
like,
I do.
besides the shot we're going to see the girl, which was the main shot, I think like 7 or 8 shots out of that one take.
Absolutely unreal.
Man.
So
Just
I'm glad you
incredible.
heard that story.
Yeah, I did, and I love hearing every moment of it.
I'll tell you one other funny story, that if I have one regret on that movie, maybe I said it in another interview, I don't know, but
I would love for you to tell us.
98% of the movie was shot in California. We did go to Florida to shoot exteriors of the hotel, of the ride itself, both at night and during the day. This is two things were kind of fun. One is with the movie, the hotel exists in 2 different time periods. So if you look at Tower of Terror, the ride, the big neon thing that says Hollywood Tower Hotel and all that, it's an abandoned, decrepit hotel at night.
At night.
A lot of the letters are out, and they're like flat, and they're
Flickering, yeah.
because it looks like it's falling apart. So with a low budget movie, it's like, ooh boy. So we're going to have to CG in all the letters, the rest of the letters, for when it's back in 1939. So the guy from Disney World's with us, and he goes, well, let's take a look. So we took, not the ride elevator, we took the elevator up to the top.
You took the actual service elevator
Took
up
the actual service elevator, and we're standing there behind the big Hollywood Tower Hotel signs. I looked at it, and it's like, there's neon bulbs in all of these letters. It's not just the ones that are lit up. And the guy's like, well, let's see what this button does.
Yeah.
He flipped it on, and whoop, and they all came on.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we don't have to worry about that.
That's awesome. That probably doesn't happen very often for the attraction.
Yeah, right. And maybe there's a special, I have no idea, but they programmed it so it goes off and on and all that stuff. The one regret I have, the scene in the movie is it's when Steve Guttenberg first arrives at the hotel during the day. Half the scene is shot in California, the other half is shot in Florida. What we shot with Steve in California is a high angle looking down, where he walks up to the gates of the hotel and he looks
I can
through
picture
the gate.
it.
And then you cut to his point of view, which was shot in Florida, which is the hotel or the ride.
Yeah.
And it's a quiet scene. It's a spooky scene. There's a far off, like a crow caws in the distance, and it's like, well, the music is probably playing to create the spooky atmosphere. Then he goes to the gate and he walks in. He's creeping through, and then he looks up again. Then another point of view shot of this thing. Thing I regret. Why didn't I think of this? If I had the wherewithal, I would have said to the camera operator, okay, we got the shot, tilt down. If he had tilted down, you would have seen that we were online with 8,000 people all queued up trying to get into the Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, you making a movie? What's a movie?" Yes, we're making a movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, look out, we're elbow our way, because I mean, they're people. We're in the queue of the ride.
So funny.
Wow.
Yeah. You, like that juxtaposition to have that the opposite of what it was supposed to be.
That would have been
in
a
that
good
moment.
behind the scenes
Living
thing.
that had to have
That'd
been
be so good.
wild.
The magic of
Wow.
movies.
We wondered how you did that. We were like, Disney doesn't close down for
Close
filming.
down,
So
not often.
how did they get that? So you were just there in the middle of the crowds.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
also had to work because we had to time it because those doors kept opening up.
Yeah.
The ride. It's
Oh,
like,
that's
well,
crazy.
that wouldn't
That's
happen in a
crazy.
hotel. That's
Nope. You don't need to hear people screaming from inside a hotel, generally.
no sound involved. When I first wrote the thing, I assumed we were going to be shooting down there, especially because of that lobby, because that lobby is so amazing.
It's
Right.
incredible.
Oh God, we can't duplicate that. What are we going to do? So I went down to scout. I said, so we're going to be able to shoot in here, right? Like, oh yeah, so you can shoot in here. He says from maybe about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning till about 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, what? He goes, oh yeah, they do not close rides to promote rides.
Right.
It did not happen.
I mean, working in attractions, they made you time if the ride went down, for whatever reason. If you had to stop the motion of a constantly moving ride, you had to write down timestamps for when it was stopped, why it was stopped, how, because
Wow.
they have a certain quota of people that they expect to move through these attractions.
Yeah.
So it's down to the minute.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Disney having their thumb on things. It extends even to that.
Well, what they said to me was, it's like, look, if someone saved up their money to fly here for a big vacation and they want to do Tower of Terror,
They get this one chance.
yeah, they don't want to hear that it's closed down for filming.
Right.
I mean, people get that it breaks down. It's unfortunate, but it happens.
It
Or
happens.
Whatever it is.
But if it was something in their control, people wouldn't
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, they would. That's not, and I agree. So it's like, ooh, and that combined with at the Disney MGM Studios, there are working sound stages there. So I thought, okay, we'll do work at the ride, we'll go in the lobby, and then we'll build sets in the studios. Tom Hanks was making that series From the Earth to the Moon at the same time, and he had booked those sound stages
Of course he had.
5 months.
Come on, Tom.
They were filled with Apollo capsules and Gemini capsules and moon landers and
Oh my
everything.
God.
Oh, we can't shoot here at all.
It'd be a very different movie.
So I said, we've got to duplicate this lobby in Los Angeles. And we did. And it was a spitting image.
I'm telling you, in that episode, I went back and forth and I was like, I can't tell if it's Florida. I can't tell. I just don't know because it was that close. I mean,
Looks
There
the
were some
same.
props here or there.
phenomenal.
The only thing it didn't have was a ceiling. There was no ceiling there. So I had to be careful not to frame it out. But I had a weird experience with after shooting on that set. Oh, and the script originally had stuff happening all over the hotel, figuring we would be limited in what we could shoot in the lobby in Florida, not realizing we couldn't shoot it all there. So we spent a quarter of the movie's budget on creating that set.
Wow.
But it
Was,
worth it from my point of view.
Yeah.
so I had to justify having built that set. So suddenly I took so many scenes that were happening in rooms and corridors and whatnot and put it all into the lobby. And thank God that lobby was so cool and so detailed that I shot the hell out of that thing.
Yeah.
But it never looked like we were shooting in one set.
No, not at all. And for fans of the whole thing, like, what's more iconic than the lobby?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a really stunning experience where after shooting in this thing, and it's really cool because when we first shot there, it had to be dressed to look like it was 1939, so it had to be all pristine and clean and no dust and no cobwebs. And then we left, and then we went away, shoot other stuff, and then they aged it down. So when we came back, it looked like the Tower of Terror. But after shooting for a couple of weeks in that set, we flew to Florida to shoot those exteriors, and I walked into the lobby, and it was weird at flying 3,000 miles or wherever it is to walk back onto the set. But then it was
In the same place you just were.
I'm back, here we are.
Yeah.
And because the ceiling, they had a ceiling down there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like, oh, what's
That
that?
had to be
Twilight Zone, man.
So spooky. Yeah. You were in
Jeez.
your own Twilight Zone in those moments.
And just a bit of trivia, there's one set piece that was on our set that was actually used in the pre-ride movie. Where they show the hotel
Yeah.
lobby and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was the
Amid
big,
the glitz and the glitter of a
Amidst the glitz
bustling
and the
young
glitter.
movie town in its golden age.
you have ridden this a lot.
Few
It
times.
was the I don't even know what you call it, but it was behind the front desk where all the mail goes, all the slots for the mail and the messages and all that kind of stuff. That was actually the one that was on the set for the actual.
Oh, that's amazing.
ride. That was
That's
that
cool.
was
That's too
a whole
cool.
thing.
Wow. According to IMDb, you also created Flight 29 Down, and I haven't seen it in years, but I do remember that I watched it in high school. And you created that with Stan Rogow, who was the creator of Lizzie McGuire. That also blew my mind when I realized it. It aired on Discovery Kids, and so you had these creators from like both sides of the fence, so to speak. You had yourself from Nickelodeon, you had him from Disney. What was it like on that production, and did you work directly with Stan in the actual development of the show?
Stan just actually passed away recently.
He did. 2023?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I guess.
Rest in peace.
The way that show came about was because of Lizzie McGuire. Stan had a blind 2-series commitment from Discovery Kids to create 2 shows. And my management company put me together with him. He says, "Hey, Stan's looking for stuff. Why don't you get to me and talk to him?" Really nice guy. And he said, "Do you have anything? A kid?" Because I really didn't have any kid shows at the time. I said, "Well, the only thing I've been working on, but it's an adult show. It's like a 10 o'clock network show. It's about 29 people that crash land on a tropical island, and it's got murders and rapes and drug use, and it's really this dark. It's like Lord of the Flies, temporary Lord of the Flies with adults.
It's like what is it, Yellow Jackets?
Yeah,
It's out now.
yeah. It would be that kind of vibe." And he said, "Oh, can you make it for kids?" I was like, "Yes, I can."
Sure.
So 29 people came down to 7 people. And it was actually made for NBC
Okay.
because at the time Discovery Kids had a deal with NBC to create their Saturday morning programming. So it first aired on NBC, and then the second window was on Discovery Kids. Stan he took creative by credit. He didn't really create the show. I wrote every script.
I see. Yeah.
Where Stan was instrumental was the physical production. He channeled a lot of talent, people. He has a lot of experience because of back in the Lizzie McGuire days and whatnot.
I feel like you'd know everybody. Yeah, doing a show like that at that time.
The one he brought in Dave Klein, who was the DP, who was a great guy. Dave's gone on to do some great things. The one creative thing that Stan harped on, and this is the difference between Nickelodeon and Disney. He's like, "We got to make these kids look better. We got to have more costumes. We got to have nice wardrobe. We
have to layer them in 17 things. If they're not in 17 layers of clothing, how will they know that they're kids? Teens.
And different clothing for every episode. It's like they're on a 7.
They're on a desert island.
Trip to they're not going to bring a entourage of clothing and whatnot. So in the second season, we kind of ended up expanding the wardrobe a little bit. I wanted it to be real. If they wore the same thing every day, I would have been fine with that.
I'm kind of with you on
That
that.
also makes it super easy for wardrobe.
That too.
Yeah. And less expensive, everything.
Your continuity goes, the issues there go way down.
Exactly. The most continuity would be on dirt.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. Yeah. How did you have this on your face?
So I gave in to Stan a little bit there, but and no one ever called us on and say, "How do they have so many clothing changes?"
That's my biggest gripe of Yellow Jackets is like, but why do they keep changing clothes? They were going to be gone for like a weekend. But
I think that's honestly so funny that you say that, because that really does kind of encapsulate some of the differences between Disney and Nickelodeon from a viewer's perspective. That was something that was noticeable and noticeably different. The kids on Nickelodeon were relatable. The kids on Disney were like, I'm not even going to say aspirational. They were just like polished.
Right.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a good word. There were several actors in Are You Afraid of the Dark. One thing where Nickelodeon really had a big impact was on, or cared a lot, was on casting. They were very much, and this is going back 1991, 1992. It was about diversity, but also they're also known for casting real kids, warts and all.
Made all the difference.
Yeah.
And there were a number of times where it was an anthology show. There were a lot of kids that had to be cast. Not all of them were good.
Right.
But quantity.
But they were still
quality.
kids.
Ooh,
they were
sure,
kids.
They're still kids. Yeah, and some were very experienced. Some had never done anything before. And so it kind of, I hate that when someone says, "Oh, the acting was so terrible." Well, You're right. It wasn't so good in that episode. Believe me, I'm the first one to admit it. But there were times where there'd be a really good kid that I want to cast, and Nickelodeon's like, too Disney. Was, to use your word, too polished.
Yeah.
They were too squeaky clean, overacting.
You had to kind of meet in the middle because they needed to be on camera. They were on TV, but at the same time, there's a middle ground there.
Yeah.
You had to work within, which isn't easy.
I'd just be like, I don't have enough kids. I need more. Please don't turn them down because they're too good.
Yeah, right.
they're too good looking.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, don't discriminate.
That's what makeup's for,
Yeah, I could
get some hair and makeup in there. Yeah.
But it's also, polished is a good word because just the Disney style of acting is so obvious.
Yeah.
And it's also not to, I loved Lizzie McGuire, right? I did, but
well, that was one of the better shows.
Agreed. And it was one of the more real shows. They had that focus on relatability, which is why I thought it was so interesting and cool that you would have worked with Stan, because it seemed like that was almost a shared thing. But the way that it was with Disney, it was so, the kids were acting like kids. On Nickelodeon, it's like the kids were acting like themselves almost.
Yeah. Well, the word that they were much more theatrical.
Theatrical, yeah. That's a great way to put it.
They're speaking lines of dialogue, especially in their comedies. Now there's some good ones, but oof. And it's in fact, the irony is that Disney Channel got really popular after those people from Nickelodeon went over there.
Right.
Which is so ironic because you would think that they would have tried to make it more like Nickelodeon, but they went up against the Holy Rodent Empire, and they had to. And suddenly they got really, because they made all those comedies that were really, really popular, and suddenly Disney Channel went from they're not that great to suddenly they got very popular, and Nickelodeon then Nickelodeon tried to follow them.
Yeah.
And then it became Disneylodeon, and
yeah.
It's kind of like we were talking about earlier with there were ideas in the ether, there were things happening that were trends on just from culture and society, but Disney and Nickelodeon had such different ways of approaching them for so long.
And it became intertwined to Disney's success and Nickelodeon's detriment.
Very true.
And Nickelodeon, it's such a shame. And now Disney Channel doesn't even exist anymore, and Nickelodeon's pretty close to be on the way out too.
I just can't even imagine a world without either, though. I just can't. Which kind of brings us to another question. In general, you had talked about you kind of bowed out from children's television because of those shifts. It became all about comedy all the time, and you didn't feel like there was as much of a place for drama. There didn't seem to be space for that anymore, and that seems more like your niche or what you were looking to write or do. Can more dramatic shows find a market now?
Yeah, I think there have been more that have come out. I actually made the wall that I hit was in maybe it was around 2000, 2001, something like that, where I had with the guy Al Griffith and I, we created a show which was going to kind of take the place of Are You Afraid of the Dark. It was called The Strange Legacy of Cameron Cruz.
Okay.
It was a spooky show about a kid who had kind of sixth sensey powers.
I'd watch it.
We shot a pilot, and it was okay. But it took forever to make a decision, like years. And they finally said to me, DJ, we're just not making dramas anymore. It's all comedy all the time.
Wow.
So it wasn't even me seeing the writing on the wall. It was
literally told. It's just not a
face.
thing. Wow.
So and the fact that Flight 29 Down even existed was an anomaly.
What was it like? Degrassi. Degrassi at the time was like super drama too, but they were the last of their kind.
Yeah,
like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really were, but that's what I loved.
I know the kids are smarter than that. You have to give them variety. When the folks, because Disney Channel turned down Flight 29 Down, or 29 Down at the time it was called, but when they saw the show, they said, "This is a really great show, but it has no place on our air." Because they're doing all the snarky comedies.
Yeah.
In fact, we had a kid who it got not revenge, but I felt like a little bit of back that I cast in Flight 29 Down, and then Disney wanted him, and they wanted me to let him out of his contract, and nope, and I'll give this kid's father credit. When I was looking like, whoa, we're going to lose this guy, he said to me, he's DJ, we're committed to you. We'll find. Now they worked around it, and they got him in High School Musical.
Hey,
it was Corbin Blue.
Okay, yeah.
So it was funny. We shot the first season of Flight 29 Down. It was shot in Hawaii. And Stan, I don't think he ever came to Hawaii. I mean, he He was just have fun storming a castle, go make your show. It was a great experience. And then in between season 1 and season 2, Corbin shot High School Musical, and it hadn't aired yet when he came back for second season.
Okay. I was going to say that would be a different kid coming back probably.
Not yet.
Close.
Not yet, because the show hadn't aired yet. The movie hadn't aired yet. So I asked him, I said, hey, what'd you do in the 4 months we had off or something like that? He goes, well, I did a Disney Channel movie. I said, oh, really? What's it about? He goes, oh, I don't know. There's a lot of singing and dancing and we're all in this together kind of thing. Hey, good? He goes, I don't know. Well, it premiered when we were in Hawaii.
Oh, my God.
Oh, nice.
And Corbin's and his family's first experience with, oh, my God, what happened? They went to a local carnival and got mobbed.
I bet they did.
And they're like, what the heck? So suddenly we had a concern about having security on the set.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. We're shooting in a remote place just for
Wow.
Corbin. And then so we finished the second season. And then there was, we saw it coming before it even happened, but that deal between NBC and Discovery Kids was ending. And NBC was not going to renew it. So suddenly our budget went away.
Wow.
So we knew before we finished shooting season 2 that we're not coming back for a season 3. So it was a very sad ending to the season.
It
And
is,
it's fine.
Yeah, it's
So
unfortunate.
the second season only aired on Discovery Kids. It did not air on NBC. But at that point, High School Musical blew up.
So you had kids that wanted to find Corbin.
So Discovery Kids came back to me and said, we got to try to do something. Because they also did a DVD release. And at that point, I'd run out of ideas for the show, frankly. I didn't know what to do. But I said, how about if we make a movie to end the whole thing? Because when we left season 2, they're still on the island.
Pull Lizzie McGuire.
What did they do at the
That's
end
what
of
they
the
did too. Same thing. They did a movie, and that kind of wrapped it all up.
Oh, okay. So they're like, okay, so we did a 2-hour movie, of which we then cut it down to 4 episodes. But the whole schedule for the shooting of that movie was around Corbin's schedule now.
Sure.
Because he was the man.
Things
It's like, hey,
changed.
so we shot all of this stuff in the beginning, and then he left, and then we did it. So
That's wild.
Yeah,
That
so
was,
he
a, that was a
became
transition. That was a time. I was in high school. I remember when that blew up, and I remember how people went
Everybody
crazy.
was obsessed with
Everybody knew it.
Well, it was interesting for someone who, I saw it as an adult, obviously, and I was like, what's the deal? And I realized, no, this was actually brilliant because it was a movie musical in a traditional movie musical sense that someone who's seen a million movie musicals go, this is like a poor imitation of movie musical. But the kids watching this had never seen movie musicals.
Right.
So to them, it was a whole new genre.
It's
Like,
exactly what we've been talking about. It's that cyclical, that time, if you wait long enough, you're going to have a whole new audience. And I had been raised on Grease. So that was my favorite. So I was coming into it with an appreciation for movie musicals. And I still liked it, because I was young. And so, yeah, they kind of got everybody with that.
And it had a great cast, and it was it was a perfect
Kenny
story.
Ortega, yeah.
Meanwhile, I was going Phantom of the Opera, High School Musical. I'll stick with my Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, exactly. It was a kid version, but it's so much the kid shows are kid versions of adult show. People used to say the Flight 29 Down was a kid version of Lost.
Lost.
It was
Right.
not.
It wasn't, but I remember hearing that. I remember people talking about it like that at the time.
Yep.
I'm the only one that cared negatively that people said that because it implied that I took Lost and
Took
turned
the
it
idea.
And turned it into, which was not what you did at all, yeah.
not at all. But if it benefited the show in some way, I'm like, yeah, sure, call it that if you want it. Call it that. You go right ahead.
No such thing as bad publicity. That's what they say.
I'm the only one who takes issue with that. That I'm like, this was not a kid's version of Lost,
Sure.
even though it kind of was. But not intentionally.
Not intentionally. It didn't start there.
No,
The
Lord of the Flies. Come on.
Well, in fact, when I was pitching the show around, when it was still an adult show, I started getting wind of, there's this other show out there that's also a tropical island show that you may be in competition with that show. So essentially, Lost knocked 29 down out of the
sky.
It's like, this is not going to happen.
Man.
But because of Stan and his deal with Discovery Kids, and I made it into a kid show, that's why it had life.
Wow.
So if I had sold it to someone as an adult show, it probably never would have seen the light of
Yeah,
day.
that was the difference. That's what saved it.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like we're saying, the origins are important, the serendipity, like the daisy chain of events that lead you where you're going.
When people say, how did you get a show made? It's like, there's no set way to get anything made. It's
Right.
just luck.
Yeah.
It's stars align.
It's not even knowing the right people, because like we talked about with Are You Afraid of the Dark, like, you know, you pitched it one way and then it comes back a different time, another way from another executive. It's all about who hears it at the right second.
And what they had for lunch.
Yep.
And what they had for lunch.
It's so
Totally.
I've done a lot of podcasts, a lot about Are You Afraid of the Dark. I mean, for 20 years, I never talked about Are You Afraid of the Dark. And suddenly
Everybody wants to talk about it.
90s nostalgia comes in and social media comes in and podcasts come in. So suddenly I talk about it every day.
Yeah.
And so I've never having done a lot of podcasts when it first started. Anyone asked, you want to do it? Yeah, sure. I'll do it. Fine. And I got not burned a couple of times, but I got embarrassed a couple of times. Whereas, you know, some guy in his like, you could have made the bed in the background, you know?
Oh, yeah.
They weren't as prepared as you guys are. You guys
Here I am in a closet.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's okay. But you guys are prepared. It's like, ooh, I found myself having to ask the question. You know, it's been bad.
Yeah. You're doing your own interview for,
Exactly. But that's okay. No one watched those, so I assume. But there are a lot of podcasts that are you Afraid of the Dark centric? I mean, they do other things too, but they also do Are You Afraid of the Dark centric. And there are a lot of podcasts in general. And I want to have someone do a podcast that reviews reviewers.
Yeah.
Reviewers don't get the same critique that they're
That's so true.
putting on other people.
So true.
And there are certain reviewers and reviews. Everyone's opinion counts. Good, bad, or indifferent, because everyone has different tastes.
Sure.
But there are some that I don't take seriously. And the one category I don't take seriously is when a review, this is not just Are You Afraid of the Dark, it's whatever you read, is that when it's all about trying to be funny. And being negative is what's funny.
Right. Making fun of things is funny.
That's being snarky and and believe me, I've heard a lot of podcasts that make fun of the show or moments, and I agree with them. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, you figured that one out. Okay, but you know, I'm okay with that.
You can laugh at yourself. I mean, that's
absolutely, especially when it's spot on, where it's like, oh yeah, okay, fine. I get that.
In too much snark, you're missing the point of the show and why you made it, which is why we should all be talking about it. You know.
Well, there's one. I forgot the guy's name, and even if I remembered, I wouldn't say it. He actually loves the show, and he always says how he loves the show, but 80% of his review is just tearing it down. Because it's funny. and his thing is funny. So, I mean, that's his shtick.
Right.
So I wouldn't, maybe I have and I forgot, but I wouldn't do him. So when someone asks me to do a podcast that does, like you guys do, that do some episode specifics, specific episode reviews. And I also, if someone says you want to do your podcast, of course I'll go listen to it.
Right.
Believe me, there are plenty of times where I'm like, ooh, you know, I'm busy that week. I can't.
Can't make it.
But mostly, they're
sure.
Mostly semi-professional. You know, that's fine.
That's fair.
But if it's episode specific, I really want to do a little deep dive, I will watch or listen to the episode they do on the Midnight Madness. And the reason I say that is because, believe me, it's not a perfect episode, but it is the closest thing to a bulletproof episode that we did. And if they can tear that episode down, I'm like, that's it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Don't. Why?
Your heart's in the wrong place.
That's exactly it. That's the difference.
Why volunteer to stand in front of a firing squad? You know.
Yeah. I mean, we did the podcast. They wouldn't be as snarky, but
sure.
But you know how they feel. You know how they feel, and it's hard to separate that.
It's how they feel, but it's also the tenor of the podcast where they're laughing at each other's jokes, and it's like, get to the point.
Right.
You know, you're rambling and you're laughing at each other at things that aren't funny, and not about the show before they even start talking about the show.
So true.
Like, you're wasting my time.
So the fact that you're here right now tells me that you don't think we did that, which is
no.
It's great. No. It's wonderful.
Well, not that I listened to a lot of your pod. I did listen to the one, but but it's like,
we could do that in other episodes. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Probably that was the one you didn't do. But that
we heard it was your litmus test, so.
No, honestly, we had no clue, and we were grateful not to know. Frankly, when you came back and said you watched it, I was like, okay, I hope it was okay. Like, not in a way of, I knew we didn't make fun of it.
I had to go back and listen to it to make sure it wasn't totally awful.
I knew that we didn't make fun of it. That was not my fear. My fear was more so, does he understand how much we love it? Does he understand how much,
right.
that we care about it?
And not that I want you to be, fawning over the show. It's you can make fun of stuff.
No, but I wanted you to know that we were fawning over the show. I wanted you to know that it was important. Mm-hmm. That was my main thing.
Well, it came through. It came through. So
that's great to hear.
And a lot of them do. Mm-hmm. And inevitably, it's like two people, and one's a real fan of the show, and the other one just is like, why am I watching this?
Yeah, hadn't seen it yet.
Hasn't seen it. Yeah.
I watched it yesterday, and I suppose it would be scary if you're 12. I'm like, it was made for 12-year-olds. It was made for 10-year-olds. That's
just
the
like
point.
Want to yell.
You're the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all about like not only why it was scary, but like why was it poignant? Why did we feel so many other things besides afraid when we watched the show?
Well, you had me at that because I guess you've heard, but that's my main thing. It's because it really, I do have a little lament. I guess that's the strongest thing I could say, is that people say how good an episode is totally based on the scare factor.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think also people remember, and this is just human nature, that, I mean, there are a lot of episodes. You don't remember every episode, but it's easier to remember the episodes where there is a visual iconic boogeyman, because then it comes right back. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the episodes don't have visual iconic boogeyman. Mm-hmm. There's an episode that is one of my favorite episodes that we did, and it gets no love whatsoever.
What's that?
I've heard a couple people, comment about it, but it's just like, well, oh yeah, I remember that one. The Tale of Train Magic.
Oh yeah.
Train Magic.
That is Twilight Zone through and through.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of my favorites for that very reason. It just hit all the right notes, all the Twilight Zone notes, but it doesn't have a iconic boogeyman. So people, and it wasn't
it didn't
scary.
latch on. No one was having nightmares necessarily about that one. So because for better or for worse,
I'm not going to get wrong by Train.
Yeah, you probably hear it all the time that you did have a generation of kids having nightmares. That was not your intention. But as we grew up, we learned to appreciate more than just that, and like you say, but it's still in our memory. So it works, it's not a negative thing at the end of the day.
And going back to what I said about writing for adults and casting short people, is that we also wanted to do a show that there'd be co-viewing, where parents wouldn't want to put needles in their eyes if they had to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which a lot of shows, it's like, when I sat down with my daughters of the age of those Disney Channel shows, where I'm just like,
yikes.
You gotta be kidding me. I can't. this, oh my God, the snark meter is off this is what
that's all it is. Yeah.
That's all it is. And it's the easiest kind of humor too. Mm-hmm. It was not clever. It's just snark. And some do it better than others, but still. So we wanted to make a show that, especially because it was a scary show, that parents would be engaged. Mm-hmm. They may not turn it on their own, but they would watch it with their kids and not want to scream in a bad way.
In a bad way. Only if they're afraid.
Do we have to watch that show again? My grandmother used to make me watch Lawrence Welk. You gotta be kidding me. I can't see it.
In that vein, and kind of wrapping that up, the whole fear factor of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'm sure you've been asked, and you mentioned earlier that clowns are on the list, but a question came to us from a Darkling, someone that's what we call the folks that listen to our show. Mm-hmm. After all this time of asking us if we're afraid of the dark, what truly scares you as DJ MacHale? Like what scares you?
Well, I do have that fear of clowns, and there's a real story. In fact, I just posted what the story was on a Facebook thing, where I had a clown incident when I was a little kid.
We all have like a clown incident that's just
a great clown
in there.
Incident.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't relate it but if you're at all interested, go back on the there's an Are You Afraid of the Dark Facebook page.
Group. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone posted, it wasn't on that Facebook group, but someone posted an article about this clown from a TV show when I was little. I was like, oh, it's the clown.
That's the one.
So I reposted it on the Are You Afraid of the Dark thing and wrote the story.
We'll definitely go look for that for sure.
Check that out for sure.
The thing that scares me, I don't have a lot of real life scares. Something that you're gonna laugh at this. I don't like scary movies anymore.
Okay.
I've never liked horror.
No, me neither. I'm not a gore horror person at all.
Yeah, I've never gone for that. Well, maybe I was a little like that, but I don't do it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But we're talking real, true, spooky, psychological, scary stuff. I have real trepidation about watching these things because people, going back to Are You Afraid of the Dark, people used to ask me, what's the appropriate age for someone to watch this? And I'd say age is irrelevant. Your level of scare goes up with your level of imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Because what's scary is not what you see, it's what you think you might see.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about that all the time.
Definitely hits home for us.
We call it the scarometer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people often ask me, how could you make a scary show for kids? How is that possible? I'm like, because we have everything except for the payoff.
Yeah.
It's Hitchcock 101.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why I love it. DJ,
It's-
that is why I love it, because that's where it lives. Like you said, it's all dependent upon the person that's
Yes.
watching it.
Yes.
We talked about self-empowerment, but it's that sense of self that determines how you
perceive something.
internalize the
Yeah,
episode.
it's a two-way street. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that applies to all sorts of things, but it really applies to scary stuff.
Yeah.
So with me, was a pretty vivid imagination about scary stuff. Not only just getting involved in the story, but in the craft of it.
Right.
I am terrified when I watch these movies. The great example was the original Blair Witch Project.
Oh, yeah.
I was a blubbering pile of doing that thing, only to find out that nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I can't watch that movie twice.
No, but the fact that you're always waiting for it, that's what does it.
And I'm anticipating what they might do. There's one example I always give because I can remember it, was from It, the first It movie, the first recent It movie, not the going back.
Yeah.
But there's a shot of the kid who's in the library.
Yes.
And I think he's opening up, going back to the history of Pennywise or something like that. And the shot, he's the shot. Okay, imagine me being the shot. I'm the kid and I'm reading the book. It was kind of a low angle looking up. He's like this. And there was a lot of space up here behind his head.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Because something's
if that freaking clown comes over his head, I am going to just die. And I'm like, oh.
That's so
It
funny.
didn't, but the
Yeah.
damage was done.
It's building
Right.
that suspense. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It ties back in perfectly to what we were saying at the very beginning, is the horror lives in the empty space.
Yes.
The horror lives in what you're
Yeah.
imagining far more than the payoff of a scare ever
The
could.
payoff is the relief.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, thank God. I mean, it sometimes you don't want to see it because it's going to be gushy, but you don't want to see the spurting going out. But then also, even if it is going to be a spurty thing, you don't know just how spurty it's going to be.
True.
So you can extrapolate. Oh my God, his head's going to tear open, and it's going to.
Which is probably to a degree why people watch slashers, like just because you
Yeah.
don't know how are they going to do it this time, what's it going to be like, that anticipation, the unknown.
Yeah.
I mean,
watch
that's
it for the kills. Yeah.
You know, both of us have our struggles with anxiety and things like that. It's only ever wondering when the shoe's going to drop. Typically, when the shoe actually drops, it's not nearly
Right,
as bad as we, imagined that it possibly could be.
Yeah. And if it is, damn, that was good.
Yeah. Right.
If it lived up to your fear.
Talking about Mike Flanagan, that's who can do it, right?
Yes.
He's one
No,
of the
but,
few.
Yes and no.
You think? Please.
I love
elaborate.
his show. I love his show, even though he ripped you off, Christian.
He did. He
I love it.
absolutely. Thank you
I mean-
for saying that.
Oh,
But
you
my
just don't know what
hierarchy-
you just did for Christian's ego for it to have you say that.
You've been carrying that around, your
I
chip
have.
on your shoulder for a couple of years.
I have.
Oh,
I mean, my hierarchy is Hill House,
Yeah.
Bly Manor, Midnight Mass. Was that?
Midnight
Yeah.
Mass. Mhm.
Yeah.
But they're all good.
Follow the House of Usher is in there.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Too. But Hill House, I think,
It's my favorite.
We
it's our
agree.
favorite.
It's Hill House.
is great.
Agreed.
But one thing I talk about the craft. One thing I noticed with him, and by the way, that is the kind of stuff I love. In terms of that's the kind of spooky.
We
that I
are
love.
we are very kindred with you on that front.
Yeah.
I mean, the spooky, the mystery, you never know what you're going to
Yeah.
see. Stuff's
The
happening in the
intrigue of
background. You're like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
love everything.
We prefer the
But
ghosts.
I did notice with some of his bigger scares, he telegraphed it. It's almost like it's until you finish watching the movie that you realize, oh, unless they played that theme, the shark was not going to show up. You didn't know that watching it the first time, but with him, it has to do with camera movement, where there's someone in the foreground, and the camera's moving off of them, then it moves back, and I'm like, here we go.
Yep, you know when it's coming.
This is up, and so therefore, because I anticipated it when it showed up, I didn't go I just went,
especially with all of your experience, like that's something that you can't separate from. So you're consuming everything with that perspective.
It's like once you start making it, it ruins the whole product. You're like, I know how it was made.
But I needed it because it was a comic. I didn't, because if I wasn't prepared,
you would have been scared of it, and then you wouldn't have liked it as much.
It's not everybody does that, but I want to say thank you, Mike Flanagan. You're brilliant, and you prepared me for the moments.
Right.
And that's kind of it too. And maybe I'm just biased because I'm happen to be sitting here speaking to a legend that created so much of what we love and shaped how we think and feel about media. But maybe that's kind of his letter to people like us. You know what I mean? Like he kind of knows that. And so, and from what I've read, I can't speak to it, but from what I've read, that seems to be the kind of, person that he is also. That's the kind of horror that he consumes also.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's, I would love to work with him.
And if you guys work together, whatever it is, we're watching it, we're reading it, sign us up.
So good.
Yes.
Oh my God. I did watch House of Usher. Was House of Usher the one where it kept going back to the interview where they're talking to the guy?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
I did see it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's all the Poe and all the siblings and that his way of approaching horror is my favorite, bar none.
Now, on the other hand, Ryan, what's his name? Ryan
Murphy.
Ryan Murphy.
All the American Horror Story stuff.
American Horror Story. I mean,
very different. Interesting comparison. Yeah, I agree.
That's brutalist horror.
I've only been able to do like a handful of those seasons, and I'm grateful that they're in, like, the seasons are kind of anthology, so you'd get
the ones that are good are really good.
Yeah,
but some of them,
some of them for me are also unwatchable.
He also did. This wasn't American Horror Story, but he did Ratchet. Nurse
Ratchet. Yeah, Ratchet was good.
After 2 episodes, that's all I can watch.
Anymore. That one's all suspense and mystery.
Do you know what's interesting too? And this is a great conversation to have with you. I don't know if you saw the Fear Street trilogy that Netflix did, but it is kind of, to me, the middle ground between these two, between a Mike Flanagan and a Ryan Murphy, where there is that element of slasher, but it is all of this like nostalgia.
It's nostalgic though,
There's the nostalgia. It's 3 installments that take place in different time periods that follow the same kind of area and the same, we'll call it the curse. So you get all of those, like the curse, the ghost, the mystery, where is this going and why, but interspersed with classic like 80s slasher moment, or so it's kind of right there in between. And I think that's why that worked so well, is because they were kind of getting both sides of the audience.
Okay.
Do you have any love for R.L. Stine? You guys were contemporaries in the whole horror anthology field. Did you ever cross paths?
The closest paths we ever crossed was at an author event. It was a dinner, and I had a choice of which table I was going to sit at, a table with R.L. Stine or Lois Lowry, who wrote The Giver. I picked Lois Lowry.
Yeah. Nice.
What an anecdote.
I don't, frankly, I'm only familiar with Stine's work. The only thing I've ever seen beginning to end of an R.L. Stine thing is the first Goosebumps movie.
Yeah.
Which I like. My impression from the little bits I've seen, things I've heard, is that the style is very different.
Very,
very different.
It's everybody wants to put the two shows in the same category, mainly just because they were happening at the same time. And I feel like not all consumers of media are even paying close enough attention, which is devastating to people like us who are like, what? But you didn't watch everything and notice every detail.
Yeah.
But I think that's the reason that they get grouped together. Anybody that has watched both is fully aware of the tone differences.
Yeah, I forgot how I put it once. It was like, Are You Afraid of the Dark is the Twilight Zone, and then Goosebumps is like Tales from the Crypt. Like, those are two completely different vibes as far as horror goes.
And you can enjoy both, or like both. And I don't mind saying I'm partial to Are You Afraid of the Dark, for sure.
I mean, there's no denying how popular it was. I mean, people would say, is there a competition between the two of you?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, no, there really wasn't, because in some way there was no competition, because there were far more. Now, granted, I don't think Goosebumps started till we were in our season 3 or 4, so we've been around for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Goosebumps, from a popularity point of view, was way more popular than Are You Afraid of the Dark. One, because they had a built-in audience from all
The
the
books.
biggest selling book series in the history of time. So
Oh yeah,
Those scholastic book fairs.
totally.
yeah, exactly. But they were also on broadcast TV.
Right.
We're on Nickelodeon. So hard to believe that back in those days, the early 90s, not everybody even had cable.
You're right.
So the universe of who could watch Are You Afraid of the Dark was much smaller than
Right.
every household that got
Yeah,
Fox.
very uneven playing fields. Yeah.
So there are way more eyeballs on Goosebumps than there were on Are You Afraid of the Dark.
Yeah, that's
so
wild.
in some ways, I should be happy that we are spoken about in the same breath because from a ratings point of view, we're like this.
For those who know, I mean, they definitely hold you in a much higher regard for sure.
I will say that I love this one little moment I had. I was working with a woman who I won't mention any names or places, but she was working at a big highfalutin company, and we were trying to work together, and nothing ever manifested itself. But she, I forgot what the event was. Was it a dinner or something like that? But she introduced me to Margaret Lesh, who was the head of Fox Kids at the time.
Yeah.
And she actually introduced me as this is DJ MacHale, the guy who writes the much better written show than Goosebumps.
Wasn't wrong. I mean,
I was like, whoa, you're right, but you can't say that to the woman who runs the network. Goosebumps.
No, it's true.
That's funny.
It's so true.
I appreciate it, but
wow.
oh yeah. So Goosebumps it really isn't on my radar. Wasn't on my radar, and still I've never seen a Goosebumps episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the director, I mean, we do share a lot of the director. The guy I mentioned who
There's a good bit of crossover between the shows.
and the actors.
Actors too. But that's to be expected. This industry is a lot smaller than we ever thought before we started
And
working
we
in film.
continue
We
to
were
say
like,
was
"What?"
smaller back then also.
Especially those two shows are shot in Canada, so that's already a
Yeah, absolutely.
small pool of actors, smaller pool of actors to choose
Yeah.
from. So, Goosebumps is not. This hasn't really been on my radar, or R.L. Stine hasn't really. But boy, I give him credit, man. He's kept that franchise going for
It's still going.
a long time.
He's putting out new Goosebumps books. It's wild.
Kudos to him. That's and everything I've ever heard, because I know a lot of mutual friends that they just said he's a sweet guy. They all love him. So that's I'm like, oh, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
So this is kind of our last question, I would say. We've heard a rumor that you still have the Twisted Claw. Can you confirm?
Yes, but you're well, I can show it to you, but your listeners won't be able to see it.
Maybe if they're on our Patreon. Are we about to see it? We're about to see
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll show you another prop first.
Okay.
2 for 1.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Me too. Can't breathe.
Edge of my seat here.
Do you remember the episode of Cutter's Treasure?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
This is the
It's the treasure chest.
treasure chest where
It's the chest.
he finds the in Sardau's shop.
Oh
where he,
my god. And it's just there with you, hanging out. You see it all the time.
That's Ian Keegan's name.
Oh my god. That's
So
incredible.
cool.
At Halloween time, I'm glad I picked this up. At Halloween time, this is right. I put candy in here.
Oh, that's incredible.
Christian, there are children having a childhood where they're trick-or-treating at DJ MacHale's
house
and getting candy out of the treasure chest from Cutter.
Yeah, they don't care.
Tell their parents to educate them.
Yeah, exactly. If their parents
Their
are more like
parents
it.
know.
But and there's
There's the
Oh
claw.
my god.
The claw. Okay, I'm gonna
It's
take
the
a
claw.
photo. Here, I'll take a photo. That'll be our
The
photo
missing
for
claw.
our Instagram.
one
Oh
missing.
my
Here we go.
gosh.
We only made 2 of these things, and I don't know what happened to the other one.
Yeah.
It's actually a turkey foot.
It's someone's back scratcher. It's an actual turkey's foot?
No, it was molded from a turkey's foot.
Okay, cool. It's because that was the thing. That was a distinction in the show.
We
She
did talk
says,
about that,
Oh,
yeah.
it's not real. It's made of wood.
Oh, did she?
She says that, but why?
I don't know.
We were like, but wouldn't it be scarier if it was a real...
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Claw,
even if it were
vulture's
made of
claw?
wood, the purposes for which one would make it all still seem sinister and nefarious. You know, like
Yeah.
nobody's just molding
That's
a
true.
turkey's foot for funsies.
I don't remember. why I wrote that. I wrote the damn thing. I don't remember why. I wrote it. I
She
don't
was
know,
like,
but
no,
yeah.
it's made of wood.
So, but I mean, now it's more. This is resin. It's
Yeah, sure.
Or whatever resin is. It's
I have an owl's
stuck with you all this time.
talon somewhere, but I don't know where it is. It's in my moving things somewhere. Little
Just
claw.
move.
That's wild. So those are your primary treasures from your time on the show.
Well, this is fun. A friend of mine does a lot of cons and things like that, and spooky stuff. So he says, "Can I borrow those? Are You Afraid of the Dark things that I use?" Like,
Oh wow.
so I actually have a copy that a friend sent me that he came across of the original that 3-page thing that I left behind at Nickelodeon. That the executive found and said, "How come we're not doing this show?" It's like, hey, there it is. I'm like,
Wow.
That's awesome.
this is kind of cool.
That's
this is,
so cool to have it.
This is because we did books. Sorry,
Yeah, is that Nightly Neighbors?
Yeah,
That's
Nightly
Nightly. Yeah,
Neighbors.
I had that
That's
book.
one of my favorites.
Did you read it?
Yes.
Oh, because okay, so then it continues on.
We talked about it.
After the episode ended, and it's written. My sister wrote that. That's my sister.
That's incredible.
I love that you respect the story and respect the idea, no matter where it's coming from, and you don't have that like pretension about like you're not a writer, but then even your sister, like you brought ideas in from her, which is so cool. And I know that's inspires Christian because you and your sisters had that kind of, and me and my sister, watching the show. That's just so cool to me.
My sister used to. I mean, she's 8 years older than I am. So when I was a kid, I remember her telling me just making up stories.
Yeah.
My whole family did that. So,
Yeah.
so
You
I thought,
come
hey,
from
you
a
could talk.
family of storytellers.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's amazing.
Artisan storyteller. So yeah, so she did it. I like you said that it's all about the story, and so there were a number of writers who had really great ideas, and I got them to write the story. And they really didn't know how to write, so it was harder for me to end up writing the story myself. But
Right.
still, the basics for the story is there. There is one episode out of 91. I say there are 91 episodes, but there were really only like 88 stories.
Yeah, because there were some part ones and part twos.
Part one's part two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silver Sight was a movie. We cut up into 3 episodes and cut her straight part.
Yeah.
But I either wrote or rewrote every episode except for one.
Which one?
I shouldn't say I rewrote them all, but I worked
No,
extensively.
we understand that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a showrunner, so you do it.
Yeah.
But this guy, it was the beginning of a season, and this guy pitched me this idea, and I was like, oh, that's good. Go write it. Then he wrote the outline. I'm like, that's good. Put a script. Then I read the script. That's good. You're done. I mean,
Here it is.
I think if I remember, maybe I did some minor dialogue polishing on it, but it was just so good.
Like he got the tone. He found it.
Yeah, well,
It was there.
He always had the tone, but he got the story. He got the rhythm. Like going back to the 18-minute thing, it's like you got to find that rhythm of getting the story and getting the tone. And he got it, and it was great. It's one of the best episodes we did. It was called "The Tale of the Dream Girl."
That is my favorite.
That's Kaylin's favorite
one.
episode.
Yeah,
That's my favorite episode. I talk about it all the time.
it's David Preston is his name, and that one is just like done. If I take any credit for that, it's for approving it.
Wow. That's wild that it came to you so fully formed. Like, because it stands out in my mind. But I mean, I'm, hopeless romantic, like any like Prom Queen is another one of my favorite episodes for those kind of reasons,
Well, you know the thing about I don't think this is true, but I love to pretend like it is, that M. Night Shyamalan was inspired to create The Sixth Sense from The Tale of the Dream Girl.
I have read that.
Yeah,
We
I
can
think
pretend.
Yeah, let's just say.
he's denied.
Nah, he can deny all he wants.
He's denied. But I like to believe he's lying. But funny thing about that was that I went to see The Sixth Sense with my wife, and the only thing I knew about it was that there's a twist. That's the only thing I knew. There's a twist to the story. Like, okay, fine. So the first scene happens. Bruce Willis gets shot, and then he's bleeding out, and the scene ends. And then it picks up like 1 year later. And I was my wife, and I said, he's going to be a ghost for the rest of the movie. And she's like, no, how would you know? Get out of here. Then, of course, for the rest of the movie, with that in mind, she's like,
Called it.
I hate you. I hate you.
You ruined The Sixth
I
Sense
hate
for
you.
I mean, she
did
did
you
go to
know?
watch it with you, knowing like that's your bread and
Yeah.
butter. That's what you do.
Well, and not only is it my bread and butter, but she's like, how did you know? It's like, I only used that convention like 7 times. That's what the Prom Queen was.
Yeah.
She was a ghost the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's what Tower of Terror was.
That is.
And one of the characters was a ghost.
You have done it. You are the man. You did the thing.
That's like DJ 101.
You should have been asking her why she didn't call it, based on everything she's watched of yours.
Yeah, I know. It's like, why? Yeah, you should have known too. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, if I hadn't known there was going, I did know there was going to be a twist, but I think the tip off was that they faded out the scene and didn't button it. It's like there's no reason to not button what happened to the guy.
Anybody that's familiar with this would,
They left the door wide open.
Yeah, it's like, why would they? Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you, guys. That was fun.
So good.
Thank you so much for being here. We have a little, our little outro little thing that we'd love to read just for you and your benefit, because we want you to know how much this means to us.
Yes.
We are so grateful, DJ, for the opportunity on behalf of ourselves and so many of our, friends that we grew up with and our Darkling community that's listening, to thank you. You entertained us, sure, but also through that entertainment, you did equip us with confidence and the mental and emotional resources to take on life's threats and dangers and fears.
The way you sparked our imaginations, even toward, the eerie, supernatural, and strange, was ultimately, like you said, empowering for a generation of kids. It was like kind of what we touched on earlier. It was the opportunity to watch our contemporaries outsmarting not only adults, but these evil villains, these very terrifying, entities.
And we've said it multiple times, but it's important to us for you to know that you shaped our lives and our preferences and our own stories, like our personal stories, but also the stories that we like to create and watch in some pretty profound ways. And we're very, very grateful for that.
That was so, I'm going to cry. That was so
No, we're not that good.
I wondered which one of us was going to cry. Which of us three?
You did something that's really special for me in doing that and saying that. Most questions I get asked, and I go to visit schools all the time, and I get the same questions all the time. And I was asked a question once that, up until that point, no one had asked that question before. And I was kind of like, whoa, that's pretty insightful and astute for a young person. That's pretty good. And the question was, what do you like best about writing? No one ever asked me that before.
Wow.
I had to think. I wanted to give a real answer because that was a legit question.
Yeah, that's tough.
And pretty quickly, I came up with 3 answers to it. Actually, one is I love the moment when I get an idea, whether it's an idea for a show, a big book series, or just a line of dialogue or a plot twist. It's like, oh, that moment of eureka is so special. I love that.
We share that too.
I also love the moment that I type the end on a first draft.
Yes.
I hate doing first drafts of anything. It's like pulling teeth for me.
Me too.
Same.
Horrible.
Same.
I love going back and then monkeying with it.
Same. That's fun.
But the really the best thing about being a writer is when someone says, I loved your work. I loved your book. I loved your show. I loved your story, whatever it happens to be. It's nothing better than that. So thank you for actually saying that, because
it's the truth. And we didn't even have time to get into your books, but you're so generous with your time. Even now, you interact so much online. You do so many podcasts, like you said. You're at conferences. I was your book announcement that you did recently. We'll make sure to shout all of that out. But you even sign books. Like you're giving back, and even doing that means so much, because there are a lot of creators that probably wouldn't.
That don't. Yeah. Well, fortunately, it doesn't have I don't do that many podcasts. So, it's, if I do one a month, that's a lot.
Still,
we still feel special.
Well, you should. I mean, I haven't done one. No, actually, I did one 2 days ago. But before that, I hadn't done one in a while. But I enjoy it. I enjoy, because it's usually with people like yourself who like what you did. And that's, it's hard work, and it's
oh man,
it's nice to hear that someone likes it.
One of my fondest memories, if not the fondest memory from my childhood, is getting to come home from school every day. Me and my sisters would make a batch of chocolate chip cookies, and I would go in my room in time to catch Are You Afraid of the Dark for that 2-episode full hour I would get every day after school, eating my cookies, ruining my supper and my sleeping habits at the same time. That was the best part of my day for years.
Talk about a ritual.
So thank you for that.
Well, it's funny that going back to when we're actually making that show, I never heard stuff like that. I didn't know about ratings. I didn't know about who was watching it.
The channels for feedback just were not there.
Did not exist. I could have gone in to look at ratings.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
I can't look at podcast stuff. I'm like, I don't even want to know. I'm just making the show.
Yeah.
He leaves that to me.
And from my point of view, we were up on an island, up in Montreal, in a different freaking country.
Yeah.
And we're a merry little band of storytellers making our thing and throwing it to Nickelodeon. As long as they kept saying, keep on making them, we're like, okay. So that's all that mattered. I mean, they said, yeah, it's good. People are watching it. I'm like, okay. I had no concept. Until social media started, I really never got that kind of feedback on the show.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. So,
Wow.
so thank you for being part of that wave of enjoying the show.
We caught that
we're here.
wave and we were in the midst of it. And they say don't meet your heroes, but I feel like it's going pretty well for us today.
Oh, God,
so
you guys. I thank you for keeping the show alive too. You never think it's a double-edged sword. You never think in a million years that something that you're making at the time is going to withstand the test of time. You're making it in the moment. That's it, and it's over. That's a good thing. That people still care about it. The downside to it is we kind of touched on it before. It's like when someone writes, as correct as that may be, they make some comment, some criticism, and it sends me back to the moment 30 years ago where I actually made that choice.
Yeah.
I understand that. So
like I'm making this didn't right, but like the costume lady, you want the red shirt or the blue shirt? I'm like, the red shirt. Then 35 years later, someone says, why would they wear a red shirt? I'm like, oh God.
You got it. Yeah, you got to take the bad with the good.
That's the thing we say is like, but nobody making this stuff ever accounted for podcasters 30 years later with nothing else to do, just picking apart the reruns,
Nope.
Bringing it out. I'm like, I would have thought twice about maybe it should be the blue shirt. I don't know.
That's just sort of the name of the game. But every time we get away from Are You Afraid of the Dark and do something else, or we try to, people are like, get back to Are You Afraid of the Dark?
True. Oh yeah. So we
like,
cover movies.
When's
we
your
cover
next
everything
one going to come out?
Constantly.
How far
Everybody's
did
just
you
like,
get?
we're in season 2.
Oh, oh my God.
Yeah, we're about to finish season 2. But the furthest we ever got away from it was doing half of another season of another show, and people were like, stop, go back to Are You Afraid of the Dark? So we were like, all right, let's go back. Even we missed it too much. We had to get back to our roots.
We missed it when we weren't covering it.
Because it's pretty much, it was one of the first things we started to do. We were almost going to be a podcast all about Are You Afraid of the Dark until we decided to branch out.
Well, the shows do run out after a while. So
yeah, eventually that's the end of the whole thing.
You want to keep going, you better
get some more content in there. But yeah, everyone that listens, that's the favorite episodes are always these ones.
So that's so cool.
Every time.
Who knew? If you told me back then that I'd be talking to you today, I'd be like,
yeah, right.
Happened, but it's fun. My line is, if I died tomorrow, Are You Afraid of the Dark would be on my tombstone. And the more I think about it, I think I may do that.
I mean, hey,
how cool would that be?
Much worse ways. Wow.
All right, you guys, thank you very much.
Thank you
good
so
luck
much.
in trying to cut this down to something listenable.
It's going to be incredible. We'll do a 2-part thing. We will let you know when it comes out.
Yes, you're going to do a mini-series. DJ MacHale, the mini-series.
Yes.
Thank you
for
again for your time.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you.
And let me know what's out. I'll promote it.
We will.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. All right. Bye.
Bye.
It was fun.
It was a long time coming, y'all. Was it worth it?
It's so hard to say goodbye.
This is something that we've looked forward to for so long, and I think both you and I have that like nostalgic sadness for, oh my God, like it's over, it happened.
Yeah, I'm already on to like,
who knows though?
When do we get him back and how?
Exactly, yeah. You never know what we might come across that we want to chat with him about. And now that we've kind of opened the door, maybe, just maybe, there would be room for him to join us again.
He's the white whale. I mean, he's that big fish out there that we really wanted to get. And now I feel like we can interview anyone.
Right.
He was the guy I was nervous to talk to. I feel like anybody else, except for you, Craig Bartlett, very nervous to talk to you.
Oh, I'm terrified. I can't wait to talk to Craig Bartlett, and I am so terrified. He's on our list, Darklings. We want to do this for you. We want to keep it up, keep it going, and chat with all of the people that had a hand in the content that we have shared with you so far.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Well, until we get to do this again.
Maybe our 200th episode we'll get.
Maybe by then we'll feel good enough, strong enough brave enough.
We've still got so much to talk with you all about. We've got plans for this year.
Do a whole calendar full.
We've both got a lot happening in our lives and our world, and we know that you do too, but we want to stay in it with you and be there for you. So that is our hope, and we can't wait till next time. If you just can't wait it out, you can find us on social media at That's Pretty Dark Podcast, at That's Pretty Dark on TikTok. You can reach out to us, say hello, let us know how you've been. Tell us your thoughts on both parts of our DJ MacHale.
What should we have asked? What could we have done better?
Lay it on us.
How did we screw it up and ruin our chance, our one opportunity?
Hit us with it at That's Pretty Dark Podcast at gmail.com. As always, you can also find us on Patreon if you are interested. We're going to have some video, some footage from the Hangout up there on our Patreon at patreon.com/TPD podcast.
Just gonna slap the whole thing up there for you guys.
And if you just feel like celebrating with us after our 100 and 101st milestone episodes, you can leave us a review or some stars on your podcast platform of choice, or share us with a friend. Get us into someone else's ears.
Yeah, that
would make us really happy.
Now we're like an official real, because you can be like, hey, they have 100 episodes. They're like a real
4
podcast.
years, 100 episodes. It's a legit podcast.
These guys
bona
know
fide.
what they're doing.
Y'all know that's not true. I think we could get to 200 episodes and still not have a clue.
No, it's all part of the gimmick. It's part of the scam.
That's how they get ya.
That's how we get you.
That's how we get ya.
And we do get you guys.
And we can't wait to get you again. And on that note, we should probably say goodbye now.
Get me out of here. I gotta go eat some pizza.
We'll see y'all next time.
Not if we see you first. What?
Huh? Who?
When?
Bye, guys.
Bye. That's Pretty Dark Podcast is produced by Kaylin Andrews and me, Christian Baxter Mott.
With music by Jonathan Simmons and cover design by Halftone Horror.
You can support our show by supporting our sponsors, or go to patreon.com/TPD podcast to unlock all the Pretty Dark bonus content we have in store.
Please share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood on our socials or at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
For all other information, visit our website, that'sprettydark.com.
Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.